Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The In-Between. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, let's focus on the case in this episode, and it deals with this woman, Holly. I mean, it's kind of sad, but like we end up first finding her arm, and it's not too much later on they end up finding her body. But it's a very interesting case because obviously her case kind of involves like tarot cards because that's kind of like her latest thing. She was kind of a free spirit. She moved from one thing to the other, never kind of being bound. I think it's kind of interesting because this entire episode kind of deals with the whole aspect of people not really 100% taking responsibility until it might be kind of too late in certain regards. Like that's kind of stretching it, but it's kind of an interesting theme in the episode. Like I'm not quite. It doesn't 100% fit the way I'm kind of putting it, but it's there to a certain extent. Nevertheless, it is kind of interesting seeing like the tarots represented in each of the visions that Cassie has. First being stabbed by a sword twice, that sucks. Luckily for her, it wasn't the full 10 like the card had, but there's also Holly dressed up like the Empress, and then there's the twisted moment of like she turns around, there's a dead child, and it's like, oh, this is for you. It's like, what the hell is that all about? Because at first they're trying to figure out, okay, so like her ring gets pawned by Bruno, who's the husband of Madame Coco, the lady that Holly worked for. But it turns out he has an alibi. Apparently Holly had asked him like, okay, here, I'll sell you this for $5,000. And so it was trying to understand, because apparently they were also having an affair too, which the wife obviously doesn't handle affairs well, because she had previously like attacked her husband, I think even stabbed him for the purpose of him having an affair. But it's like, no, the situation's a little different this time because she wasn't even aware of the affair, because she's like, if I had known about the affair, I would have gone after him again. I wouldn't have gone after Holly in this particular instance. So even the whole fact is her being pregnant, it's like, oh, it must be Bruno's kid. No, because Bruno had a vasectomy, so it's like, okay. Which we did find out, like her sister Taylor, her and her husband Luke were having a hard time having a child. They even asked Holly to basically be a surrogate mother, but she was like, nah, I can't take 9 months away from my life to be dedicated to that. And it's just that thing of like, they've been trying for years, and they actually turned to her as the last hope, but that didn't work out. And now it's like, oh wow, she got pregnant so easy, yay her. Like, you can tell there's definitely some issues there. I mean, because Holly's justification was, Taylor's thought was kind of like, well, the fact of the matter is she didn't come to us probably because she figured it was going to hurt too much. The fact is we turned to her. It's kind of interesting because the actor who played her husband Luke, I was like, why does he look so familiar? I know him from something. I swear it's something cop related. I don't remember what. Is it APB? I'm pretty sure it's not APB. I think it's something else. Is it SWAT the movie? I don't remember. That dude looks so familiar. It's going to bother me. I'm going to have to look into it. But I've definitely seen an actor and stuff before, and I just can't play. I feel like there's one specific thing that kind of resonates in my head. Is it, what's that show? Is it Flashpoint? I think that might be what it is. Because it was like, I knew it was like a cop show. I'm not that familiar with the show, but I think it might be Flashpoint that I might be thinking of. Jeez. I have to look into that, but I'm pretty sure that might be what I'm thinking about. Regardless, I'm getting, way off board here. But it turns out, sadly enough, that Holly wasn't actually pregnant. She was harvesting her eggs. I was like, oh. So is that why Holly killed her? Because she was actually selling her eggs to other people. But like, oh, you won't give your eggs to me. But it's like, no. The whole thing was a means of like, hey, I'm going to do this thing for my sister, It was meant to be a gift. But the thing is, sadly, she wanted it to be a surprise, so she didn't tell anyone about it. But it's like, oh, she wanted to borrow money. She claimed it was going to make us happy. Like, she never actually got the other money. Like, eventually she got the money from Bruno anyway, but it was a situation where she had left a message to her sister asking for like $5,000, and for them it was just kind of like, oh, at least in Holly's case, it's like all she does is take and take and take. She's a free spirit. Me, I got responsibilities and stuff like that, but she gets to kind of go do whatever she wants to. She gets to live her dreams, but what about my dreams? But the thing is, Holly didn't know. Like I said, because that Taylor didn't know because Holly kept it from her because she wanted to make it a surprise. So like, it's like, oh, she's there being like, oh God, those big eyes of like, oh, like expecting so much from me. And Holly slapped her, hit her very hard. and her death was an accident. It's a shame. Your sister was actually trying to do something for you in the end, but because she wanted to surprise you, she didn't tell you everything, and you accidentally killed her. And Luke, trying to protect his wife, covered everything up for her, you know? So it's actually a very tragic situation. It wasn't necessarily something like born of malicious intent or whatever. It's just kind of like a misunderstanding, a very complicated family, and one misunderstanding led to this particular, tragedy. So it's kind of a shame. And now it kind of now you kind of understand more a context of like what the baby was like. Oh, this is for you. That's what it was meant, because it was like kind of almost a literal thing of like this baby, this my eggs. It's meant to be like, hey, giving you a chance. Maybe also the thought was like because it's a dead baby, which I'm even saying that just kind of feels wrong. Just even saying it out loud, it feels wrong in my mouth. Like the words dead baby, it just, I don't know, feels gross. Nevertheless, sorry. The fact of the matter is, I guess that was kind of representative of either it was supposed to represent the fact is like, oh, this thing that you wanted, it kind of died with me, even though I was trying to do this for you. But also it could be representative of the fact of like, oh, they couldn't, get pregnant. So I don't know. So like it was just kind of a sad aspect of the case. It's interesting too because like all this case happens on the cusp of a lot of stuff, because obviously Damien's back at work. He dealing with the whole losing Sally thing. Luckily, he really appreciates the fact is that Tom and Cassie were there for him. He's like, yeah, of course we're going to be there for you. And obviously Tom's dealing with the whole thing. Brian's getting checked out, which we'll kind of talk about that. Oh, we can go ahead and talk about it, but it's kind of interesting because you can tell, like, Tom is like, I got to go to the appointment. Damien's like, no, I got things covered here. You can tell, like, it's probably, like, as someone who's literally going with the situation of, like, had to deal with, like, a significant other in a very terrible condition, a situation, like, he can resonate with what Tom's going through, and I'm sure it just kind of piles back on the realization of, like, Sally being gone now. I'm sure, Tom's situation it's tough in many different regards on him, but obviously, it probably hits Damien a certain way too, just because being sympathetic but also kind of still dealing with your own, loss as well, So it turns out that Brian doesn't have cancer, but he basically has a tumor on the front of his lobe. That's why it's affecting his memory, that particular part of his brain. So but because it's on the front, they can go in and operate. But situations like this can always be dangerous, especially something on the brain like that. So obviously Tom and Cassie are very worried, and hopefully everything will work out in the end. So, but that's one side of the story. Another side of the story involves this musician named Jace Gray who died, and his interesting enough, he holds significance to Cassie because his music is someone that, like, she heard that music a lot when she was younger because her mom was a big fan of his band. Was it like The Chosen Time or something like that? And so she starts seeing his ghosts. Interesting enough, he's played by Nicholas Lay. He's popped up in many different things, but the first thing I feel like I remember seeing him in was a TV show, Kyle XY. I want to say that was it. I could be wrong, but nevertheless. Other than that, like I said, he's definitely popped up in a lot of different. I feel like there's something fairly recently I've seen him in that I just can't quite place it. But obviously he's coming to Cassie because it's like, hey, I want to get to know my son Billy. I never actually met him. Kind of wants to kind of know that his son's okay, and they kind of investigate everything and end up finding out, like, tracking down Billy's mom, Penny. Turns out Penny died 16 years ago from cancer, which is like, geez. And her sister's there being like, oh, no. 7 months before she died, she reached out to Jace and was like, hey, I need money for rent and, even diapers. But he sent the lawyer and wasn't willing to deal with anything. But Penny just kind of let it go. She didn't, try too hard with the whole situation. And sadly, it turns out, Penny's sister was like already dealing with her own kids. So she did what she thought was best for Billy, and she gave him up for adoption. And obviously Jace is kind of like, oh, he tried to paint it to be like, oh, no. Like, I told her if she ever needed anything, like, the fact of the matter is, I went on tour. He's like, but the fact is, because his band was just about to hit a world tour and stuff like that. So it's like, I told her if she ever needed anything to reach out, but she never did. And then, like, when Cassie confronted him about what he had said, and he was like, no, that's not the case. Nah. It must have been my lawyer. Not my lawyer, the manager Rodney I had at the time. I was like, oh, okay. My mind immediately went like, Okay, he's probably lying. Because don't forget, and you could tell Cassie was probably a little suspicious, but she was kind of willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Because remember, she came across that mother a couple episodes ago. I'm blanking on her name now. But she was like, oh no, I didn't get high. I must have been murdered or something. But it's like, no, she got high. The addiction wasn't something that went away. Well, they end up checking in on Billy. And, obviously it's like, Jace just wants to know, like, oh, he's okay, see what kind of person he is. We find out, like, obviously he's in a very loving family because his dad's there celebrating with him because it's like, hey, you got into Yale, and this is a big moment. And Billy kind of fades away because he feels even more guilty because it's like, yeah, my son, he's grown up to be a great person, and I had nothing to do with it. And he admits, like, actually, everything I told you was a lie. And I was like, yeah, I'm not surprised. It was actually him that sent the lawyer after Penny because it was like he was high at the time, and it just like he didn't want to take responsibility, hence why I was kind of talking about like responsibility kind of being a theme in this episode to a certain extent. But it's like he didn't want to have anything to do with the baby or anything. He just kind of wanted to be, so he just kind of wanted everything to kind of go away. And it pisses Cassie off because Cassie has a very complicated relationship with kind of negligent parents in particular. Like, obviously her very complicated relationship with her mom, she kind of can't help but insert it in this position, and she's kind of taking it out on Jace because yeah, he did a shitty thing, and it's like now you want to be in your son's life, and you wanted to kind of make up for it. Now for him it's like, because he even talks, because for her it's like, it's ironic because it's like, oh, you make all these beautiful music and songs, but it turns out you're essentially selfish asshole. Which he's like, yeah, I'm a drug addicted rock star. It's like that you don't get kind of lower in the like totem pole of selfish people, and those are his words. And I thought it was because it's sad because it's like he later on, wanted to reach out to Billy, but he never did. He kept putting it off because, shame, and just kept putting it off and putting it off until he finally died of a heart attack, And it's like, now he'll never get that chance again because he had it, but he didn't take it. I wonder, did he know about Penny being dead? Or did he just never care enough to look into it? The fact is that he wanted to, it could be a situation of that he honestly didn't know about her being dead, and that probably just adds even more guilt to it because it's like Billy grew up without his mom or dad, but at the very least, like I said, he's in a loving situation. But like I said, Cassie's pissed because it's like I said, it's like you're a biological parent and you didn't step up when you needed to, because she's like, look at my family situation. It's like, I have a dad who isn't even my biological dad, referencing Brian being like, he's going through something right now. Basically, I don't have time to deal with your BS because like he's dealing with something, and I'm gonna be there for him because he's my family. And she kind of walks through him, and obviously she kind of like, she tries to apologize, but Jace is already gone. But like I said, it's just like I said, irresponsible parents, people not really stepping up kind of affects her in a certain way, because it's not just that her mom drowned out the voices because of the whole being able to see ghosts and everything, but it was more so, it was that, but a combination of just because of all that, she was very troubled. She bounced from one kind of crappy relationship to the next. They were always moving around, because for Jace, it's like, here's the crappy thing about being dead. The fact of the matter is, you can't eat, you can't drink, but you can't even sing loud enough for people to hear you, but the only thing you have, because normally when he's feeling these feelings, he'd be able to put it all into his music, but he can't even do that because it's not like it can resonate with anyone. But for him, it's like, even being dead, the one thing you can do is feel pain and sadness, and it's like, that's kind of the sucky side of things. But then, you have Cassie talking about her story, that like how what his music meant to her mom and her, and it's like, in that one particular memory of like her mom had already packed up all their stuff, she was crying, but they played some of his music, and in that moment they sang along, and it took them along the road. Like, the fact of the matter is, you might not have been able to be there for Billy, but you were there for me and my mom when we needed you and your music. And I think that was enough, knowing that his son is okay and turned out okay without him, but also knowing that, hey, maybe I wasn't the best person, but the fact of the matter is my music was able to help people in some shape or form. So there's something good that came from my life, I think. And we see Jace disappear. And we also see, Cassie put her mom's pendant on. It's very interesting because I feel like a lot of this has been therapy for Cassie, kind of dealing with a lot of probably unresolved issues she had with her mom. which I still kind of feel like it's all heading towards her crossing paths with her eventually. But yeah, is, you know, see her at the end kind of listening to the music surrounded by a whole bunch of people, kind of showing like how his music had impacted a lot of people. You know, it's like, yeah, your life was very complicated, you know, personally, but at the very least your music touched people and potentially helped them, like it did Cassie and her mom, you know. But it, you know, it didn't repair everything, but it did help in times when it was needed. So I just thought that was kind of a beautiful ending in certain regards. Like I said, it's kind of like a very sad episode all around, because it's not like everything kind of 100% worked out of like, oh yeah, Billy, it's not like Billy knew about his dad, because, you know, because even Cassie brought out the point, is like, if Billy really wanted to know that you were his dad, JC would look into it, he would have found out, but he didn't show, because he's happy where he is, you know. But it's, you know, it would have been nice, I guess some semblance of me probably would want, like, it's like, oh, for Billy to know, like, hey, your dad was Jace and this, but it would complicate things, and it's like, no, like, don't uproot someone else's life, you know, because that was even something she had said. It's like, I'm not going to turn his life upside down just because you now want to kind of take responsibility, and, you know, it would cause more harm than good. It's kind of similar, you know, it's, I don't know. Like I said, there's a sadness to things playing out the way they did, but there is, like I said, there is a silver lining to it. So I don't know. Just a very interesting episode and just all around. But I'm very interested to see, you know, where all this takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.